lunch session with Dr. Lambros. Fatsis is policing race through crime, both race and crime in inverted commas, drill music, racism, and criminal injustice.
Diolch yn fawr, with mae'n siarad Cymraeg, so please accept my apologies for addressing you in the imperialist tongue, English. At least I'm not English or British, and I'm certainly not an imperialist, so I guess my conscience is a little bit clear for now. I'm actually really glad to be here, which everybody says, but I really mean it, because it's quite humbling to be in the company of people whose work I admire and people who I admire as people, and that certainly goes for Joy, Tariq, and Adele for sure. So I just wanted to say that because it's true, right? And I don't intend to lie. So there you go. So in terms of what I plan to talk about today, and I might have similar challenges as Joy, technologically speaking, when it comes to digital technology, that is. By the way, that's a painting by Tam Joseph called The Spirit of the Carnival. I'll just leave it there for you to admire as you hear me speak. So what I plan to talk about today is very much actually in line with Tariq and Joy's contributions, in the sense that I will also be thinking and speaking against what I call dangerous myths and comfortable untruths that approach UK drill music as gang-related music and as evidence of bad character to secure joint enterprise convictions. If you want to know more about these prosecutorial maneuvers, ask me and I will tell you, but I'm not going to talk about them today. I think Adele might give you a bit of a picture later, and I'm sure they're going to come up in the discussions that we're going to have later. But first, I sort of wanted to channel my inner Tariq and Joy to argue that drill is not actually policed because of its relationship to violence and criminality, but because of the color of its sound, as a sonic embodiment of blackness, a form of aesthetic dissonance, cultural inadmissibility, and political disorder. It is out of tune, noise, out of place, unbelonging, and out of order, disorderly. It poses a threat to tonality and harmony. What's that pounding polyrhythmic beat doing there, right? What's that thumping bass? It's a danger to cultural cohesion. What and who are these kind of people, right? And that expression is as old as Queen Elizabeth I, actually, who wrote a letter with that title, These Kind of People. But of course, the kind had an E attached to it because it's Old English. You know, they're not us. And of course, they're an enemy of public order. Why are they so violent, right? There must be something wrong, right? Some innate or cultural trait, the blackness, perhaps. So ridiculous though these arguments may sound to us here today, or so I hope anyway, one can never be sure, especially in academia. They have a long, rich and ignoble history as narratives that serve to justify why drill is policed the way it is. So that is why I will be arguing that what is policed when drill is policed is not crime, but race, through ideologies that racialize crime and criminalize race. So blaming race for crime and criminalizing race as a result. This is exactly what Frederick Douglass meant when he wrote about how racism imputes crime to color. Impossibly sharp phrase, in my view, and what Saidiya Hartman implied when she describes crime as a status offense. So not something that someone does, but something that someone is. And this is a moment where one might expect a brief history of the policing against Black or Afro-diasporic musics from the era of imperial colonial slavery to the present day, which, by the way, is also the history of British policing itself. But that, too, is also something that you can ask me about later. And I have references to sort of point to you there, because it's a different point that I want to make today. And before I do any of that, I think we should just listen to some tunes. And And I'm conscious of this because now Joy has imposed the 30-second rule. So I was going to play full tracks, but I don't think I will. And I'm going to try and avoid adverts because they really make me angry. So I'm going to mute the screen whilst the ads are playing, then skip ad, then play 30 seconds, and you get the picture. If I can get this working. What does one do? I mean, the video is embedded.
I think it's PowerPoint
Oh,
being annoying.
I can load it on a different computer. There's like 3 computers here, which is 3 too many.
Yeah.
If you ask me. Jesus. Okay.
What is the video called?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not so concerned about that because I can play. Would the sound come out of the
I
desktop?
don't know.
I think I can make the sound come out of the
I mean, the
I don't
problem
think
is
it's the
that
sound, it's not
the
loading.
video is not loading. It's not loading as a
Okay.
video.
I'll tell you what. We'll don't worry, we'll troubleshoot another way. Okay, cool.
It's taken down.
No. All right. Let's see if that
You hear that?
does that play.
Yeah, we can't hear anything.
Yeah, maybe if I do. Let's try.
You know why you're shook of it. Element
Email.
the murder. Chef man, you kiss man. Yeah, that short's turn around and plan. I ain't got to say too much about that. Just no saying they so I got chef man, no. Don't have to feel about that. I ain't mash works from cut. Lucky that he never got back. Now you know crash. Crash ain't got no chill. Clean day fan got things and hiding. Now you wanna claim that works. Great that you don't get catch. And AD, you was my friend from years. Why you gotta fuck with them? Niggas ain't real. Those key left you twice. Both times man got chef. Run a man down.
You get the idea. I don't know how to switch. Sorry. It's too much. Okay. I'm really sorry about this.
No, don't worry. If you just go.
Oh,
That's fine.
but I can't see what it's showing there, paradoxically. Oh, great. So what I'm going to do to avoid this situation is I'm going to play you the music from my laptop, which is not connected to the speakers, right? But, I'm trying to improvise. And I've put the lyrics up there because the recording is really old. It's from my own record collection, so you get to hear it. When I say record collection, I actually do mean vinyl. Just to be clear, right? And that might explain my sort of digital illiteracy, as it were. So let's hear, 30 or so seconds of that.
Imagine our stars being banned from entering on native land. That they are obscene and must deny. But all things look yellow to the jaundiced eye. I think they're ungenerous to attempt to take our music from us.
I'm going to stop there. 30 seconds exactly, Joy. You will be very pleased. Now, obviously, right, the sonics of the first one, menacing, scary, dark, somber, ominous, graphic in its violent imagery, which you couldn't see because I couldn't play the video I had in mind, but, balaclavas, reference to knives and all that. The second one, upbeat, joyful, innocent, unthreatening, right, the static of the record, Attila the Hun just taking it away in sunny Trinidad in the 30s, all good, right? So obviously the first is a drill tune, the second is a calypso calypso tune. But what if I were to tell you that both have been policed in very similar, if not identical ways? So starting with drill, for example, some of the ways in which they're being policed, that is to say, controlled, surveilled, monitored, and so on, is through criminal behavior orders or CBOs, gang injunctions, the monitoring and taking down of YouTube videos and drill music tracks from radio playlists, Radio 1 in particular, which the police have admitted doing, by the way, and the use of drill as evidence in court. Let's move to Calypso. A Theatres and Dance Hall Ordinance of 1934, which gave the police powers to ban records and forbid Calypsonians to sing in Calypso tents during carnival season without a license duly signed by the police. Prior to that, an 1868 law similarly prohibited Calypso, requiring Calypsonians to submit the lyrics to the police for approval before presenting them in public. Very much the same way in which drill rappers need to submit the lyrics and the videos and the tunes before they even upload them. In the social media. What do you think happened to the tune I just played from Attila the Hun, which is called Banning of Records? It was banned. Okay, and I'm showing you another example of lyrics to another calypso that Attila wrote but didn't actually record, just to sort of reinforce the point I wanted to make. Get the picture. I'm going to move on swiftly to another one by Lord Protector. I don't mean Oliver Cromwell, by the way, just in case that's what you're thinking. Who's lashing out against class and racial oppression. And I want to play you also that's a tune that is not really available, but there is a very short interview with Lord Protector where, apart from bragging that he wrote the very first political calypso, which is not true, he also, sings a little bit and then claims that he was actually charged for sedition for the song. So let's see. I know what to do, I think. Bear with me.
Working in your slides is because when they opened up and that warning came up, it says protect me from external media instead of enable external media, and it gets approved.
Right.
So I think if you exit out of it and go back into it and it pops up again, if you click the other option, you may be able to.
The problem with that is that I don't actually see it on the screen. So it appears on the screen there, but not on my lap. So I wouldn't know how to do it.
So from my experience, the issue is that like YouTube, PowerPoint doesn't recognize it as a video.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I can, if you put it on this computer, I can send it to.
No, it's okay. I'll do it quickly.
No, I think you're right.
Right.
There we go. We've got it.
Well, we've got it on the.
It's on the screen.
Yeah.
It's on the-
1920. Class legislation is the order of this land. We are ruled with the iron hand. Class legislation is the order of the land. We are ruled with the iron hand. Britain boasts of equality, brotherhood in love and fraternity. But British colors have become in perpetual misery. This colony. The Guardian wrote an editorial says in charge of sedition.
There you go. That's the point. No more media, so you can relax, and I can too, hopefully. So, if both calypso and drill, both being black music genres, are policed in the same way, when only drill has violent content, then how do we justify the policing of calypso, right? And the only threatening thing about calypso is the critiques that it had of British colonial governance and statecraft, which of course the colonial authorities want money here, but it has nothing to do with violence and crime. So might it not then be the case that drill is also policed because it portrays the violence that the state does not want us to see or hear, yet nevertheless creates through its own social policies and budget decisions and the lack of any sort of redistribution of wealth and so on. Perhaps so that we don't start thinking that our laws, our political culture, our society breeds the violence that violates people into violence, as June Jordan put it in Civil Wars, which is a must read, as you know, everything that June Jordan wrote is, in my view. Obviously, you know, I'm not asking everyone to agree with such an interpretation, but is it not nevertheless true that something other than crime is policed when dangerous drill and innocent calypso are policed in similar, if not identical ways? You know, how are we to account for that similarity if that's not the case? I will let you come up with alternative explanations, but that's mine. And it is, of course, based on a view of policing as a political institution that nevertheless polices culture to impose a social order that is ordered by and through racial hierarchies whose roots lie in the imperial colonial ideology that created race, racism, policing, and police racism in the first place. So if that is the case, and I am right, the policing of UK drill should hardly surprise us. As soon as we start to realize that the history of policing is the history of its racism, that the history of its racism is imperial colonial, and that imperial colonial rule is about history and economics as it is about culture and politics. It is about accumulation and extraction, but it is also about exploitation and subjugation through the suppression of culture as dangerous noise to be eliminated, as aesthetically inferior, but also politically fearsome as an instrument of insurrection. Which does sound like a puzzling contradiction. There is no contradiction at all, actually. It is entirely consistent with the logic of colonialism to deny Black musics their artistic status, just as it recognizes and fears their potential to inspire resistance against colonial rule. So both noise and disorder oppose colonial rule at an aesthetic, cultural, and political level, and that's what the problem is. That is the crime that ought to be punished. The audacity to engage in empowering, life-affirming activities that also threaten to criticize, expose, or even overthrow colonial governance as a form of perfectly legal injustice. So the policing of drill is just the latest link in a long chain of policing against Black or Afro-diasporic musics, from the banning of African drumming, chanting, and dancing, to the banning of records, to the criminalization of drill today, via the suppression of reggae sound systems, garage, bashment, and grime. Again, I could regale you with specific examples of more legislation and more music genres across the African diaspora and across time. But you can find these in my published work, don't you know? And more importantly, I'm more concerned today with just laying down an interpretive framework as if it were a mosaic that will shift our attention from the realm of criminality and attune us to the domain of culture as a racialized form of pathology on which violence and crime are blamed anyway. It is their culture, their fatherless families, their very physical presence that creates crime. We were fine without them. If we can't send them home, therefore, and believe me, we tried, we can at least keep them surveilled, monitored, controlled, policed, and confined to remind them that they're unwelcome and unwanted. We want our country back. Yet we couldn't be proud of our imperial nation without them. Right? Given that an empire needs colonies, colonies need colonization by force, and that force is provided by policing. And what is policed is, of course, the cultural and political life of the enslaved. And that's pretty much what I wanted to say today, and it is a lot, I grant you that, through telling a story that is also a cautionary tale about how and why denying the artistic I'm trying to fiddle with computers here, by denying the artistic status of forms of creative expression like drill allows it to be perceived and pursued as evidence of criminality. It's only if you are able to do that that you can just process it as, you know, sort of evidence of criminal wrongdoing. And in so doing, of course, what is disguised is what is actually